We are Rogue Media Sports.
It's too early, Mike.
Too early.
It's too early.
Right here. Pepper me. Thank you. All right, one more time. There we go.
Oh, yeah. Welcome into America's new pastime, the Cam Show, powered by Rogue Media Sports Network. Cam Stewart, who's blocking himself again, alongside Zach Burke, the wheels of steel, as some airheads would call it. It is Thursday. We just had a great writer's room going. We were really kicking around some good material, some good comedy. Zach was firing on all cylinders, really adding to this thing.
I wouldn't say that too much, really, but
I would.
I was just enjoying the genius that was at work, and I would just add 2 cents in every now and then. Like I'm that guy, kind of like William H. Macy from Sports Night, where
I've never seen Sports Night.
You haven't? Here's the thing. It's not going to shock you. I love Aaron Sorkin.
He's great.
But the thing that I really enjoy Sports Night, but the thing that kind of kills it a little bit at the beginning is ABC decided to put a laugh track behind the show at first, and it eventually fades away over time. But those first couple episodes, then you're just like, just let the show work on its own. But my point was, I'm William H. Macy. I come in and people just know that I can help out. I can do things. I don't interfere with like the genius that's going on. I just let it breathe. And then when it needs a little, just like, zap or poke or whatever you want to call it, I just add to it.
A Zach zap.
Yeah.
Will the laugh track ever be effective again?
No, I don't think so. I think the only time it works is if it's in front of if it's an actual like live studio audience that works. But the laugh track as a whole, I think, is very dated and it kills stuff.
That's fair. I think that's a lukewarm take as well. Like, I think most people agree. I set you up for it. Yeah. So, but like, I think that's what most people would say now. I just always thought it was because I love a good awkward comedy, as you could probably tell from the workshopping we were just doing. But like, I mean, Seinfeld has a laugh track, live studio audience, but
yeah. But it doesn't seem overdone. Like it fits. Sometimes with the laugh track, it felt overdone. Like they were going to put it on every single joke. Well, not every single joke needs it.
Have you ever seen those where like they do the Big Bang Theory or Friends without the laugh track?
Yes.
Oh my God. It's like frightening, man. It really is. And some of the great shows of all time have had a laugh track.
That's true.
Seinfeld, like I mentioned, All in the Family, Cheers. That stuff still holds up comedically.
It does. But I don't think
some of the woke doesn't want it to.
I think that a lot of it too was just, I don't know, the sign of the times of where you're used to it, where TV kind of shifted. And so by like the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a lot less of it. So hearing it then was just kind of strange. Like, I think I assume if I go back and watch older TV, like that's part of the norms there.
Boy, the way Glenn Miller played. Songs that made the hit parade. Oh, what a great theme.
Those were the days.
Those were the days. Why don't we get theme songs like that anymore? Why not?
We don't have anything that really has.
Man, because I don't watch any sitcoms. So I guess that's part of it.
I'm just thinking of
I don't watch
TV
anything
in general.
When was the last memorable theme song that you remember on television?
I have one, but I haven't really watched a lot of the show. And I think it's just because it's a Bare Naked Lady song, but I do remember part of the Big Bang Theory theme.
Yeah.
But like, that's a popular, like that was a song from a popular band before it was the theme song, I think, wasn't it? Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway.
Yeah.
But
right.
I'll figure that out. But I mean, aside from that,
and sometimes that works.
Yeah.
Happy Days, their season 1 theme song was Rock Around the Clock.
Oh, true. And then they changed it.
And then they had a great theme song after that.
Yeah.
One Tree Hill had.
Oh, but that Gavin DeGraw.
By Gavin DeGraw.
But that was already a song beforehand too, wasn't it?
Barely, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was. But I mean, talk about striking gold.
Oh yeah.
Like as soon as you come out with this, like your target audience is just like all tuning into this one show that your song is the theme to. That's
Yep.
pretty cool. I think the last one, like real memorable, kind of iconic one for me would be like The Office. That's 10 years ago.
Yeah. No, I can remember that. Dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun. Yeah. I mean, it stays
That's
with me.
Sports Center, what you just did right
Well, I stopped before I realized.
Got kind of annoying, but it's iconic nonetheless.
Exactly. You know what it is. Other
What's
things.
Young Sheldon's theme song?
No clue. South
I
Park.
watch
That's
I
older.
watch a lot of Young Sheldon shorts now. They get put up in my Instagram and Facebook feed. So when I'm high, I just watch them, dude. It's so bad.
I
It's
can't.
so
through it.
bad.
So real quick, Rolling Stone made a list. I was hoping to get it to load real quick of the top 100 TV theme songs from 2 years ago.
All right, we could do a couple minutes on this.
Yeah. I didn't want to take away from what you had, but I'll just do the top 10.
I don't have anything good to say anyway. so-
Number 11, just right outside, was the Game of Thrones theme song.
Yeah, I don't know it. Didn't watch it.
It's another orchestra one.
Yeah, I know it's kind of like instrumental.
Okay. Strange one. For number 10.
Give me a hint.
I don't think you're going to get this.
All right, then tell me.
For number 10, they put Too Many Cooks, which is an Adult Swim. You know the
Too
short,
many
though.
cooks and too many chefs in the kitchen make the people round.
No.
That's a very inside
That is a very inside joke.
inside baseball.
Oh man, I love
John Tapp.
the City one's still my favorite. But no, it's like they Adult Swim has like their little infomercials, which are like 7 to 14-minute shorts.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is it's like parodying those like theme, like the 90s like theme song opens and where they're giant montages and stuff, and more stuff happens. So it's like a short. I don't know why they would consider that. Number 9, The OC, which
Great
was,
one. That was already a song.
yeah. I saw Phantom Planet in concert.
Really?
Yeah.
They
They
do
were
anything
opening.
outside of that.
No, like that. They closed with that. They were opening for Panic at the Disco, so that kind of shows you what concert I was at. The Friends theme is number 8, which was also a song before they used it.
Yeah. I don't think I think it did hit the top 40 because of the show.
Because of it,
but
yeah.
Yeah.
Number 7, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Okay.
That is
Good.
Yep.
So a lot of people would say that's the best because they don't think for themselves. But it's a great theme song.
Number 6, The Twilight Zone. But it has the original.
Yeah, I'm not much of a song. I love the Twilight Zone, which we talked about a lot in your absence, by the way. I've
Really?
been watching a lot of Twilight Zone.
Like the original one. or
Yeah. I
there's some
don't
good
fuck with
ones.
the other ones.
Have you gotten to the one where one of my favorites was always the guy who wanted there to be like he wanted to be able to read, to have time to
Yes.
read?
Yes, Burgess Meredith.
Yeah, is it? Oh, it is Burgess
Yeah,
Meredith. in that.
Time Enough at
Yes.
Last.
Oh, that's a
that might
great
be
one.
that might be my favorite episode.
Number 5.
Because his wife, I watched it a couple weeks ago. His wife is such a bitch in that show. Like she literally
while
will
since
not
I've
let
seen this
him
one.
read. Like she rips up, she fucking draws all over his poetry book. Like what a bitch. Like what a bitch. There's so many worse things that you can do than fucking read.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, you won't talk to me. Probably because you're a bitch. Okay. Probably that's why. I mean, he's reading during work, which is tough. Like you can't do that. But anyway.
Number 5 was a PBS show, but not the PBS
Sesame
show you
Street.
might think. No. It's a Beautiful Day in the
Oh
Neighborhood.
yeah.
It's
Mr.
Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
Number 4 was Crazy Ex-Girlfriend,
Don't know that show.
which it was a CW show, which I
Oh.
think might have been a musical in a lot of ways, actually.
Heard of it, but don't
I can't
never watched
remember.
it. Yeah.
Rachel Bloom, I think, is in it.
CW, man, they can do some crazy stuff.
Number 3, Stanford and Son.
Sanford and Son.
I did say Stanford. Damn it. Yeah, no, Stanford.
Stanford University.
Stanford University.
Son.
It was not the original, the sequel, where he goes to college.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes. It has a son in college.
Oh no. I would actually watch. I loved Red Fox. Number 2 is a tie, which seems like a cop out.
Are they the same song?
No, they're 2 very different songs.
Oh, but I'm gonna guess what is one of them a spin-off of the original?
No.
Oh.
One of them is about a family.
All in the Family.
No.
The
3
Jeffersons.
boys, 3 girls.
The Brady Bunch.
Yeah. And the other one is about a 3-hour tour.
Gilligan's Island. Those aren't the same thing.
No, but there's a tie between the Brady Bunch and Gilligan's Island.
Why?
I don't know.
Does it have any explainer there?
A tie between the 2 all-time great expository themes with lyrics by creator Sherwood Schwartz apparently created both
so
theme
they do
songs.
essentially have the same theme in that
the same guy.
they are
created both,
setting up
yes.
the story of the sitcom, but so did Phil of the Future. I don't think that's the same thing, though.
Schwartz
That
said,
song does rock. It's
Schwartz
22nd
said,
century man.
confused people don't laugh. So the Brady Bunch and the Ballad of Gilligan's Isle are platonic ideal of what a theme song should be. Catchy tunes that introduce the characters and tell you everything you need to know before watching.
It's pre-internet. I don't know if you know that. It's before
Yeah.
the days of the internet, Zach.
It is. And then number one.
They're leaving some really good ones out of
Oh,
here
they are. Number one, you already mentioned.
recently.
Yeah, just recently. Nelly
They're-
sampled it. What kind of? He changes the lyrics for it on his debut album. But you already sang it, so
I already sang it.
you said it. Sorry, not sang it.
Oh, the Jeffersons.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great song, man. But how do
It
you have
is.
that and not All in the Family?
I don't know. I closed
know
it.
they're
All
not.
the Family's not in.
That's a bummer, dude. Cheers? How do you not have Cheers on there?
I'll try to find where these are.
Like, that's
but yeah,
ridiculous,
that's not top 10. 23.
Sopranos is a good one. I mean, it's not like the catchiest, like happy upbeat, but
All in the Family was
that
number
was also
20.
fun.
Sopranos was number 19, which was also though a song before
Yes.
the theme.
Yeah, well before.
Random,
Entourage. would be the same way.
yeah, really random. Oh, because it was Jane's Addiction song.
Yes.
The Sopranos song, and this is very random fact that I know. Do you remember like the Great British Train Robbery from like back in the 20s? Or never mind, forget it. We'll talk about this off here. This is gonna go nowhere. The Simpsons is 18, The Muppet Show 17, The Rockford Files 16, Mission Impossible 15, The Wire.
Mission Impossible was a show?
Yeah, before it was a movie.
I had no idea.
The Wire was 14, Cheers was 13, Hawaii
13
5-0 was
seasons,
12, and then we had Game of Thrones. So that's the top 20. Banana.
That's what the Permian Panthers run out to.
Do
So
they
that's how I
really?
know the Hawaii 5-0 theme song. Yeah. Yep. They get the smoke and the big mojo banner, 7th flag over Texas, and they run out to Hawaii 5-0.
Is there a reason why?
I don't know, man. They could have done Back in Black or Paint It Black pretty easily,
Yeah.
but it sounds good. Like you get there, it's
Does the
kinda
band
cool.
play it?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's okay.
yeah.
I thought it was just like a recording over the. that is cool. Okay.
Anyway,
Now if
There-
yeah.
there goes the first 10 minutes of the show. That was good though. I could talk that shit all day. Patriots is what I'm talking about this morning. Drake May is sweeping the nation. May fever, if you will, is sweeping the NFL world. And one of the guys feeding into it is Dan Orlovsky. He had some big Drake May hot takes this morning on ESPN. We'll get to that in a second. But clearly, over the last few weeks, it feels like people are noticing Drake May more, which is fascinating to me, not because it's not unwarranted. It is warranted. I've come on here and say how much I've loved Drake May the last few weeks, but they're playing at noon every week and they're losing more often than they're winning. You know, they're 3-8. And here's Jaden Daniels, who's playing some, national games, and he's winning. Their team is on pace to go to the playoffs, and he's still getting his flowers, but it's almost like we've moved on from that. It's like, okay, Jaden Daniels is going to win Rookie of the Year. We know. Like, he's good. And Drake May is now catching the eyes of a lot of analysts and therefore being pushed on social media and all of that. And I think one of the big reasons as well with this May fever is that Caleb Williams is not playing well. And Drake May did beat him head-to-head. Although Caleb got them in a position to win the game against the Packers last week. The rest of the Bears can F it up, but like he got them in a position to win that game. But the 3 or 4 weeks before that, he was not playing very well. He was not accurate. It seemed like veteran leaders on that team were getting a little upset and obviously got his OC fired. Drake May has not done that. Jaden Daniels has not done that. So this morning on Get Up on ESPN, they made Dan Orlovsky redraft the quarterbacks, all but J.J. McCarthy. They said that was unfair. So they're going to have him redraft the quarterbacks, and Drake May got a little bit of a bump.
I would take Drake May at number 2. I am fascinated with how well he has played. If you're in New England, you got to be freaking giddy about this kid. He is doing more with less. The thing that has been, I guess, most surprising is how little he misses. The accuracy is significantly better than I expected. He's made plays with his legs. I think he's got like 2 missed throws in the last 2 weeks. The only thing I care about in New England right now is who's going to be that big-time receiver addition. Okay? This is where I wrestled at 3 and 4 because Drake May almost went number 1 for me.
Drake May almost went number 1 for me. He was ready to put him over Jaden Daniels. And the thing that surprises me the most, and it's been a pleasant surprise, obviously, as a Patriots fan, is kind of what he was talking about there. He said he missed 2 throws in 2 weeks. So the thing that has surprised me the most is how ready he was to step into this. Like, everyone was saying how raw a prospect he was, and you watched his film in college, and there was a lot of plays where you're like, that's just not going to work in the NFL. Like, Drake May cannot win purely on, this talent, throwing it off his back foot, throwing it off platform, and fitting it into tight windows for receivers in the NFL. You can do that in college. You can do that in the ACC. You can do that at high level of college football. It's not going to work in the NFL. He was a true gunslinger coming out. Project, took a lot of chances that just weren't going to work in this league. And then he gets his opportunity, and he's not doing that. He is somehow, with the worst offensive line and the worst weapons by far of any rookie quarterback, has made that all work. And somehow, with that arsenal around him, he is looking good. Not just not bad, not just, okay for a rookie. He is looking good. I think this guy has the potential to be a top 5 quarterback in the league down the line here. I really do. I see the plays he makes, the plays he extends. I watched a lot of amateur film on him yesterday and this morning. And everyone is raving, Colt McCoy being one of them, longtime quarterback in the NFL, one of my personal favorites. Is just raving about the stuff he's doing at the line of scrimmage and what he's noticing at the line of scrimmage and comparing it to other rookie quarterbacks who aren't noticing it and plays getting blown up. Like that, to me, that's what we saw in that Hard Knocks clip a few months ago when Brian Daboll has him in the room with the Giants trying to, dissect these plays and what the play call is going to be, what the hot routes are going to be. And Drake May's just thrown it all back at him. And they asked Jaden Daniels the same thing. And they're like, okay, what's the throw going to be? Or what's the play going to be? What do we want you to do here? And he goes, throw a touchdown. And they kind of laugh at it. But Drake May is throwing everything back at them, just with a little bit different terminology from what he was used to in college. Which leads me to believe, by the way, that Brian Daboll was probably ready to move on from Daniel Jones. I mean, I actually have, probably because he's a Belichick guy, I have a lot of respect for Daboll and his offensive mind. And I just think he's been hamstrung with Daniel Jones the last few years. And that if he could have taken Drake May, or if Drake May had fallen to whatever, 4 or 6 or wherever they picked, they would have taken him. Which will lead me to have a segment sometime in the next few weeks about how Brian Daboll, when he gets fired by the Giants this year, will be the next Patriots OC, God willing. But clearly Drake May is starting to impress a ton of people. They also had someone else on the panel that they were asking about the redraft, and Dan Orlovsky picked him to go number 2 on the redraft. My man Larry has an even better prediction for him in the redraft.
Right now, if you were drafting them, Harry, would you agree with this order?
Yeah, I like that order, and I will tell you this about Drake May. Drake May has the most upside of everyone on that list right there. Because of the prototypical body, the strength, he has the ability to run the football, pass the football. So I really like him, and as he progressed, he might be the best quarterback of this class when it's all said and done.
Might be the best quarterback of this class. Has the biggest upside of them all. Did anyone think we would be saying this halfway into year 1 of the Drake May project? Did anyone think we would be saying that a month and a half ago when there was still this infighting and debate on whether you could even put him out there? He is turning all kinds of heads. And it was not that long ago, whatever it was, 6 weeks ago, that we were saying, oh, you can't put him out there yet. You need to keep rolling with Jacoby Brissett. That so much has changed since then. And again, I've said it every week, it bugs the crap out of me that the Patriots couldn't put anything around him this year, anything around him. Because Jaden Daniels has a team that can get to the postseason. Caleb Williams, on paper, had a team that could get to the postseason. Drake May, weirdly enough, the 3rd pick behind these other 2 guys, had by far the worst situation. By far. First-time NFL head coach, a pretty new play caller, offensive coordinator, and Alex Van Pelt. He's done the quarterbacks coaching thing, but really only called plays the last few years in Cleveland. And no offensive line, no wide receivers to speak of. You had a second-round pick from 2 years ago that they already cut at wide receiver. You have a second-round pick from this past year who can't stay on the field because he can't give you anything positive. And here's Drake May impressing the hell out of everybody. It's got to put a ton of pressure in that owner's box and in that GM office and in the coaching offices. You've got to get this thing right. What you have been handed is the gem. You went out and got that gem. Don't get me wrong, but you've got a gem here. You have got a potential top of the line NFL quarterback in the next few years on a rookie contract. Please, please, Patriots, do not mess this up. Do not mess this up. I can't believe how quickly he has come on and has completely changed this team and the attitude around this team and the attitude in the stands at Gillette. For decades, we didn't do the moral victory crap. And we still don't like that as Patriots fans. But there's legitimate hope here. And it makes that report from Evan Lazar 6 or 7 weeks ago all the more believable. Remember that report? Evan Lazar said there's a mutiny in the Patriots locker room because they keep starting Jacoby Brissett. These guys saw the progression every day. And now that makes a ton more sense of why they were mutinous, because they knew how good this kid could be. And it's playing out in front of us week after week after week. It's like they've already pushed aside the Jaden Daniels thing. And they're on to the Drake May, the new toy, right? The Drake May train. And I gotta credit Mike Debate as well. We had Mike Debate on here in the preseason when people were talking about how this Mike Debate from Locked On Patriots, by the way. We had Mike on preseason when everyone was talking about how they wanted Joe Milton more. They wanted to see more Joe Milton because he can throw it far and he's big. And Mike said on here, he said, I really think Drake May has the highest upside of any of those three quarterbacks taken. And now he's got national pundits agreeing with him and plenty of people around the league agreeing with him. And I've watched a good bit. I've watched like 3 or 4 games of Jaden Daniels this year. I think this kid's like legit. I think he's going to be a good player in this league. Pretty good quarterback. Still not sold on Caleb Williams. And very high on the upside of Drake May. I mean, as someone who's watched every snap he's taken, I cannot be more excited about Drake May. It's a world of difference from Mac Jones. Mac Jones, whom I also was excited about. This is not revisionist history. I loved Mac Jones coming out, and I loved him in that rookie year. But all the things that you said about Mac Jones, right? Command of the huddle, not making stupid plays, commitment to winning and football, not having much of a personality, being a good leader. All of those things, Drake May also has, and then has the skill as well. The skill that Mac Jones just doesn't have. He can thread it through a needle. I mean, he can hit those long bombs. He can make something out of nothing with his legs that Mac Jones could never do. He can get out of the pocket. He can extend plays in the pocket. He can throw with a dirty pocket, which Mac Jones did not have great success with. He can beat man coverage, which Mac Jones never could really do. Mac Jones was a touch guy, zone coverage, find the soft spot in the zone. Drake can do it all. He can beat man coverage with his arm. We've seen it in the last 6 weeks. So all the upside that Mac Jones had, Drake May has it too, but with a lot more talent. I don't know how you can't be super excited about this going forward. I have already sent my Mac Jones jersey into some company in Philadelphia to replace the nameplate on the back to go from Jones to May. It is going to be May all year long with the Patriots. Golly, can you tell I'm excited, Zach? I can't wait. He's like doing these things that like hitting these numbers in games that people haven't done since Brady. And again, I've been so impressed with his poise, which is something that you just didn't think with his poor footwork and all the rawness of him. You wouldn't think he'd be very poised. You know, he'd throw it off like Zach Wilson was. He'd get flustered. He'd throw it off platform. He would throw off the wrong foot. His footwork would be terrible. That has been like solved already. He had a throw in the first half of that game against the Rams that was on like a 3rd and 7, and they had a safety blitz. And so Drake identified that part of the field that was going to be open because the safety was blitzing, and the Patriots really didn't pick it up, the blitz. And he's got a dirty pocket. He's got guys coming on either side, either shoulder. And he stands in there, footwork perfect, does not get rushed, delivers a freaking dime to Pop Douglas, who is in that space. First down, drive stays alive. That is not something that most rookies can do. It's not something that Mac Jones was able to do consistently. And it makes me go back to try and find those tweets and those posts about how great Joe Milton was and how the Patriots could use Bailey Zappi right about now. It's all bullshit. So I want to go back to Ben Volin specifically saying in training camp, you can't tell which one was the first round pick and which one was the flyer they took on the 6th round. Joe Milton is inactive every week. Drake May might be the best quarterback in this rookie class. Trolling Volin at it again. Boy, I can't wait to highlight that tomorrow. Bruins are in a new era. They've got a new head coach starting tonight against something called the Utah Hockey Club. We will hear from the GM who still has a job. It's coming up next on the Cam Show.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at a stop. I thought I was fine, and then once I got home, I realized it's a lot worse than I thought. I ended up having a ruptured disc. You say you're not hurting, and then an hour later, you're saying you're in all this pain. I just felt like most people would think that I was lying. That's when I decided to call Daniel Stark. I owe a lot to Daniel Stark. They really got me what I deserved.
The difference is stark.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
Welcome to a special edition of the Doomsday Podcast. Look at this. We got one of the great golfers in the world, certainly one of the great pass rushers in NFL history.
But he also had a vision for you. And so it was like you had the best of both worlds, right? You had somebody on you early, and then you had somebody who was maybe
more relaxed. What were a couple of your biggest takeaways? The person you referred to that I spoke with, I've spoken to some personnel people and general managers of the league to get some, independent, objective assessments of the players the Cowboys picked, and we'll go through that. Has the general manager changed at all in the draft room?
Nope, it's been the same since I was here the last time.
Here we go. Cam Show, Rogue Media Sports Network, Colt Brennan Memorial Studio, alongside Zach Burke. I'm Cam Stewart. The Bruins start a new era tonight as they take on Utah at home, and it's the first game under new head coach Joe Sacco, who has been with the team for a decade now, and obviously no shortage of hockey experience, especially in the Boston area. Medford guy. He shot it down today. They asked Medford or Melrose. He's like, I don't know where Melrose came from. I'm a Medford guy. It's good. It's a little more blue collar. Medford guy. Played at BU. Played at Medford High, by the way, which you don't see anymore. Public high school hockey going right to BU, which is what he did. BU Terrier under Jackie Parker in the oft-forgotten 80s run, and played in the league for years. has had coaching experience in Colorado. Was not great overall. His overall record was 130, 134, and 30. Made the playoffs once, did not win that series. They lost to San Jose in 2010. That was his first year as the coach, and it got pretty much worse. So he goes from second in the division to fourth, a slight bump up to third, to then last in the division where they really bottomed out 16, 25, and 7 before he was fired. That was the strike shortened season. But what it got them in Colorado was Nathan McKinnon. So a big thanks to Joe Sacco there. I was on the radio, Zach, with Mosley the other day, who leaned into this Bruins thing because they had just fired Montgomery. And Mosley, Texas guy, admittedly does not know a ton about hockey.
Yeah.
And he goes, Joe Sacco will be the new head coach. Certainly remember him from his playing days. And I didn't say it on the air, but I was like, no, you don't. You don't know who Joe Sacco is. You are confusing him with Hall of Famer Joe Sakic. That's
okay.
who you're confusing him with.
I mean,
that's who you remember
close
from
at
your
least,
playing
though.
days. It is close, name-wise.
Honestly, I'm
very different players.
I don't mean to like make it sound like but I'm surprised that he brought up that. He just doesn't seem like much of a hockey guy.
I'm stunned he brought it up at all. We do a show in Central Texas the day after an embarrassing Cowboys loss, and the first segment he's appealing to me to talk about the Bruins head coaching change.
That's nice, but hey, that's probably
nice.
That was better news than.
Yeah, I think he just didn't want to talk about the Cowboys. Anyway, Jim Montgomery out. I almost said Bruce Cassidy. Jim Montgomery out. Joe Sacco in. Don Sweeney talked to the media after our show yesterday and had interesting comments about this extension talk. Remember, Jim Montgomery went into this season on the last year of his deal, and extension was obviously never done, and he was fired. And here's what Don Sweeney had to say about the change in head coach and those extension talks and where they went.
It came from a decision of our team really just not performing to the level of expectations that we have grown to appreciate as a fan of the sporting community here. And, for me, I had to change course. It's not generally been my nature to not enter into a relationship. I've worked with a lot of people over an extended period of time, unless they've gone on to other situations. And in Monty's case, we had entered into extension talks, couldn't find a deal based on what we had offered, and then when the underperformance of the team reared its head for 20 games, I had to make a decision. And moving forward, that rests with me now. From a personnel standpoint, and the players themselves, they have to understand that they're not where they need to be, and we're either going to get back there or there'll be continued changes across the board.
Now that really interests me, what he said in there about the relationships as well as the extension talks. He basically admits in there, we didn't have much of a relationship, which is odd for Don Sweeney, apparently. But on the ice, you could see that there was a disconnect. There was absolutely a disconnect between what this front office wanted in a team and what this coach wanted in a team. And Elliot Friedman wrote his 32 thoughts about this morning. And Elliot does some great stuff, and he does a lot on this change. And I love this quote from Elliot's column here, because it's talking about what Don Sweeney said with that relationship. And it said, maybe we will never know the full story, but there are people who believe Montgomery was unsure about Boston even before they were unsure about him. That is damning. And that absolutely illustrates right there that the GM and the head coach were not on the same page at all. And that's going to include the president on the GM side too, because they're buddies, they're teammates. They would get down in the corners together. And when they fired Pete Chiarelli, the only outside guy they've had in 50 years, Cam Neely said, you got to bring in my guy. Bring in my buddy, Donnie Sweeney. And look how it's turned out. And it does also paint a bad picture for Jim Montgomery, not just Don Sweeney here. Because what we saw was a team going through the motions for weeks, waiting for something to happen, waiting for someone to get fired, someone to get traded for some kind of shakeup. And every time you looked on the bench, when these cataclysmic things were happening, Jim Montgomery's just sitting there with his hands in his pockets, doing the old Kevin James meme. Oh, what am I going to do? I'm going to be out of here in a couple weeks. He was probably waiting for something to happen too. And that's not good all the way around. And it's really showing that they did not come to an agreement on an extension. Because clearly Montgomery was seeing this saying, they're not going to let me have my team. They're not going to let me play the style I want to play. In fact, they're not even going to let me call up or send down whom I want to and from Providence. The GM is doing that? Really? I mean, I've watched Moneyball. I think the manager can do that. No, but seriously, like the head coach should have the autonomy to call up a player or send one down. And they have made that clear that is also not the case. Montgomery made it clear. And now Don Sweeney's saying there was no relationship and we couldn't agree to a number on a contract extension. I also wonder, if you couldn't come to an agreement on the extension, why did he start the season? You had an out last year. People would have been just as critical as they are now when looking at his record. But you had an out last year. And if they had lost that Game 7 to Toronto, if Toronto scores in overtime, then he probably is gone. But he buys an extra year because Pasternak scores. And they get embarrassed in that next round, but it didn't matter at that point. So why did we go into the season with a big-time Don Sweeney offseason, bringing in the guys he wants, and Montgomery probably doesn't want? Why is Montgomery starting the season as the coach? That's what's befuddling me about this whole thing. But now you've got your guy. You've got Joe Sacco, who's been on the bench for 3 different head coaches. He's been there for 10 years, clearly a Sweeney, Neely guy. And now there are rumors being thrown around, kind of unsubstantiated, that Joe Sacco knew he would have a good shot at this job in this season going into this season. The organization feels like a mess right now. It feels like an absolute mess, from the players to the coaching staff to the front office. And maybe this Sacco era will be glorious. We had Matt Berry on yesterday saying he's going to get the full season. And I think the same thing. I doubt that they are just having a placeholder in for now while they go and find a great head coach by Christmas. I doubt that's going to happen. And I don't even know what kind of direction they'll go into. But I've already had it play out in my head that Sacco is going to get this team right for a short period of time because they do have some talent there. They're going to make the postseason. Maybe they beat Toronto again because they always do. But Toronto's a better team, so probably not. But they'll make the postseason. They'll get a fun 7-game series. They'll get that playoff gate. And they'll just keep them on. One of us. One of the Bruins. And we'll just repeat the cycle again. Because they don't have the leadership within the locker room that they need, clearly, as we have seen it precipitously fall since Bergeron left the team, on a team that coached itself in 2022-23. So we're just going to go back in the same cycle. But if they make the playoffs, they make the playoffs, and everyone will have a little bit of hope, because once you make it then, anything can happen. Tonight, you will have Joe Sacco behind the bench, and you will have Jonas Korpisalo between the pipes. Remember that. In 8 years when they're back in Stanley Cup contention. Remember that you'll say, I was there, I was watching when it was Joe Sacco coaching the team and Jonas Korpisalo in net. And Riley Tufte on the 4th line. And Pavel Zacha being your first line center. Remember that, Bruins fans, the next generation when they start winning again and start competing for the Cup. That is my plea to you, to remember that. Joe Sacco era starts tonight. Catch that fever. Speaking of fever, being sick, maybe that'll keep you out of work. Someone who is calling sick out of work a lot is Joel Embiid. We're going to talk about him and the Sixers, whatever's going on there, with the great Pete Souza. That's next.
Yes! Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at 70 miles an hour. I was injured, had a concussion. The insurance company, they delayed. They were playing games from the initial conversation. They weren't going to help me. The biggest thing I learned through this is that you can't go through this alone. I called Daniel Stark. They were going to help me and everything was going to be all right. Daniel Stark got me 10 times the insurance company offered.
The difference is Stark.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
It is Matt Mosley, and it's the Obstructed View podcast, Rogue Media Network. I think they're learning that there's really no wonderful view of me. See, I feel like they think this feed's going to be really wonderful.
There must have been no BS, like 20 scouts, 15 to 20 NBA scouts there to see him, and he was top 5.
When your old number wasn't working, I went through various channels to track you down. So unfortunately, you can never get away from me. But I'm happy. Man. I'm happy to have you today.
No, thanks for having me. And you know we always family, no matter where I'm at.
I mean, yeah, a new coach comes in, they're going to turn the roster. I think that's just we've got all these transfer portal stats and what Dion did and what Fritz has done. I mean, that's the deal, man. That's the game that's being played nowadays.
Maybe a little bit unknown at quarterback. I mean, unknown to the rest of the world, but you know, he dove into the portal and got a guy who is super, super athletic.
South Dakota State's really good. Give us a little bit of breakdown about what they can do and what Oklahoma State needs to be worried about.
Look at that form right there. I need to say nothing else about this because I found one.
4 years, so she wouldn't have been there.
Okay.
But Rockland's like big basketball town, so it was kind of cool. Like when he came in, he was like, I used to do camps with Coach Fisher, who was the legendary Rockland basketball coach for a long time. And so it was like, hell yeah, man. Like, hell yeah, he gets it.
Forget
basketball
Rockland.
town, man. And Rockland is just a smaller version of Fall River.
We're talking about Chris Herron.
Chris Herron, the great Chris Herron.
Yeah.
Best thing to happen to Fall River since Route 24.
No. Since Mark Megna was in that class too. Richmond guy. He started a gym in Miami called Anatomy. He played in the NFL. He was self-made. Mark is an amazing
Durfee
guy.
High?
Durfee High. Same class. Same class as Chris Herron.
You party with Chris Herron?
No, Mark really doesn't party with anybody. He's as straight laced as it can be.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Durfee has fallen from grace, man. That used to be a real, 10 state championships.
I think I've told you this, but you'll appreciate this. When Richmond would go on road trips when I was a freshman, you didn't travel. And his roommate, Elio, who is now with Dave Portnoy.
That's the Elio?
The
okay,
Iceman.
no way. So is that a McShay connection?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, that's exactly how that happened.
Gotcha.
So the Iceman, Elio, was, could you imagine, a bookie in college. And so I would go down to Elio's room. Elio's roommate was Mark Megna, and I would field phone calls. Like I would answer the phones, and take bets for Elio. I remember one time a guy called up, wanted a fucking bird cage. I was like, what is a bird cage? It was a type of bet. I never heard of that. Only Boston, Massachusetts degenerates, right?
Yeah.
So anyways,
I guess, I don't know.
I would drink Gator Pro, which was like a protein supplement, and Magna would get so pissed. He would be like, Souza, did you drink my Gator Pro? I'd be like, no, dude. He'd be like, liar.
Bro, you just love taking other people's drinks, man. You did that to him. Who was it? Mo Cheeks? Did you steal Mo Cheeks?
No,
beers?
that was World Be Free. That was
World Be
different.
Free.
That was beer.
Yeah,
and I almost got killed.
But you steal people's drinks. You steal Mike's fries.
America's guest, dude.
God, I want Whataburger so bad, man.
Huh?
I want Whataburger so bad. I'm trying to do this week. So I got high on Monday, but I'm trying to go the rest of this week without getting high and not eating fast food. And I got real tempted yesterday because I went home for lunch. I was so hungry, and they were fucking power washing the breezeways to get up, and I'm on the third floor. and it's like literally like raining down through their power. I'm like, I can't even get to my apartment, and I'm so hungry. And I went in the car and I like closed my eyes and listened to a podcast for like 20 minutes. And I was like, do not drive to the Whataburger. That's a quarter mile away. Do not do that. Like this was my thing. So I did not, and I have enough food in the house to get me through. Tomorrow night would constitute the weekend.
Yeah.
So I could, if I want to, tomorrow night. But I'm trying. This will be night 3
That's good.
without getting high, which I've done that before. That's not, it sounds like I don't.
Can
do
you
it
tell
every
me now?
night,
I'm sober now, right?
But
We
some of
talked
these
about
nights
that.
some of these weeks I'll do it 5-6 nights a week.
What
And
is-
so
what-
like I'll
what's
get
the-
really pent up.
What's the drawback of getting just marijuana high for you, who's not an addict?
It's eating. It's just the
Okay.
eating that comes with it, really.
Yeah.
And like sometimes I'll get chest pains, and that just means like I'm just taking too much. And you just siphon it off and you're okay. Like it's not bad, Pete. I don't feel like I'm gonna die. or anything. But mostly it's just eating. Like I'll just as we've talked about, I'll just eat the whole house.
By the way, I don't think you're. I when you have those, I don't think that's real. I think that's just your high. Like I don't think you're really anything's wrong with your chest. Like I think
Then it might not be.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
which is
like-
also, you know,
like doctors will say, like, or you'll hear, like, nobody's ever overdosed on marijuana. But you go crazy, and you could end up playing in traffic.
yeah,
and you
yeah,
die that way,
which
But,
is fun. But
yeah, no, it's amazing.
yeah, and it might not be. But the way I look at it is whether it's real or whether it's not. If I don't get high, I don't get chest pains.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
so that's the thing. I'm just trying to, cook from home, which is not significantly more healthy, but it's better,
Yeah,
right? Doing some yoga this week.
good for you.
Man, I really need to do it more often. I've been starting to do it in the mornings, man. Fucking great. Like
Is
just
that
a
why you're in a
10-minute
decent
thing.
mood today?
I've been in a decent mood all week.
But no, you didn't get high last night, and you did yoga.
Well,
today.
usually when I don't get high and I get in a bad mood. See, that's the problem is like
you
I've
think
been
you're in
so
a bad
busy and so yeah, I mean probably, yeah.
Yeah.
And like I'll get so fucking worked up. You know how worked up I can get. And like the other night I was flipping out over like nothing. I was like throwing my hat. I was like
What were you
slamming
pissed
doors.
about?
I don't even remember. That's the thing. I don't even remember.
Yeah.
Like I think I was like doing something on my laptop and it just like wasn't going fast enough. And I was just like, I have all this mental internal struggles going on. And then something like that happens and I fucking lose it.
That's enough. Sometimes.
So like the getting high was like a chance for me to just decompress after like,
Just to
long
check out,
work
right?
weeks, long work days. So,
we're gonna
so
find you,
try and
we're,
do-
we're gonna find you some other coping skills. at some
yeah,
point.
like, can I just get high like twice a week?
Call Grace and tell her how you're feeling.
I talked to her about this.
Yeah.
And again, it's not, I don't want it to sound like it's something that's completely
No,
controlling
no,
my
no,
life,
no,
but
no,
it's
and I'm
more
not
like
saying no.
it's more like a challenge for me to be like, all right, let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's see that we can do this.
Yeah.
I did it. I've done it before with food stuff. Like, I went like a whole month without getting fast food when it was like the beginning of Grace and I dating, which was tough because I can't cook.
Why
And
were you
when
doing
you're
that?
starting
Did
to
you
date,
wanna
like you
look
want to do
good or
stuff like
something,
that.
or-
No. I just like, I want to not do it. I think I was probably getting like some acid reflux stuff.
What year was this when you guys started dating?
2021.
Okay.
I did a whole year without drinking
How did
soda
you meet- how
when
did
I
you
was
meet
living
her?
on my own.
How did you meet her?
Hinge.
Okay. All right.
So that soda thing was impressive.
And by the way, you stopped drinking soda for a year?
A year.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's something I'm trying to do less of.
Yeah.
Do less of now. And using that natural energy that I get from my yoga.
That's it. I for the first
I've
time
been doing it twice a day this week.
I'm so new to the schedule to what you're saying. I was out on the trail this morning for the first time in forever. I was like in the morning, I was like, I'm gonna go out. Like it was 8:00. I was like, I'm going out now. And it was
I think that's something I'm going to do when I get to Chicago.
It's gonna be too cold. You're not gonna want to do that.
But that's a good challenge.
A good
and-
challenge would be just getting out there now, dude.
And I really like walking,
Yeah.
but I know this isn't constructive, but I'm like, someone my age should be running.
Yeah,
know?
I ran today.
Like I should be running. I hate running,
Yeah.
but I really should be doing that. That's better for my heart.
Yeah, but don't let it stop you. Don't just not go outside because you're not running. Walk
Yeah.
first.
Okay. Okay. Joel Embiid, which you've loved talking about the last couple of days. So I watched this video last night on YouTube. And it's this guy talking about the whole Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, like calling him out in that team meeting. And he links it to Kobe and Shaq on the Lakers. Now, I know what you're thinking. Pretty different, right? But the examples he uses are pretty good. So he talks about the first year after the three-peat, Kobe averages 30 a game for the first time. And it's that same year where Shaq had, I think it was a foot injury.
Yep.
And he had injured it in the playoffs and didn't get surgery until like the season had started.
Yeah. No, right. It was right before. It was like
Right before.
October or
Okay.
something.
Preseason.
Yeah.
And he had the now infamous line of, I got hurt on company time. I'll rehab on company time. Which, like, I mean, I know it was a big deal at the time. That would be fucking everywhere now. We're getting bludgeoned on social media, as you should. Like, that's an unbelievable thing to say. I wanted to have my summer and then I'll go recover. Like, that is wild. And so he links that back to Joel Embiid, and he's never ready to start a season, and now he's still hurt. And Tyrese Maxey's calling him out on being late to everything. And by the way, they were the same ages. Embiid 30, Tyrese Maxey 24, Shaq 30, Kobe 24. And it's like a fascinating kind of like, man, this really is. You obviously take away the 3 straight championships that the Lakers won, and it's a lot of the same.
That's where
thing.
Joel Embiid finds himself in big trouble because he doesn't have a leg to stand on and not one championship ring to put on.
Yeah.
And that is where like the comparisons between him and Shaq end for me right away. I hate to be a guy like, oh, you got to win a championship to be in the conversation, X, Y, and Z. But like, I mean, Joel Embiid hasn't been to the conference finals.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing? You know? And so I think that Shaq he doesn't get a pass per se, but like, I do believe like 3 championships in a row can maybe make you soft. You know, like you're just like, wow, you know, like that you can lose some of that hunger. And Embiid doesn't have any like, and Stephen A. Smith was talking yesterday, and I love this because he goes back into beat writer mode. And by the way, I think I know exactly who his source is because there's a guy who works in the Sixers operations that's been there forever. And and every time Stephen A's at a game, they'll talk. And this guy's a great guy. But Stephen A says, you know, I've talked to someone around the organization, and he said ever since Joel Embiid got his bag, that he's basically told Sixers fans to kiss his ass the way he's been acting.
Yep.
And there's a lot of stuff around the organization that says he's changed since he got his huge contract. I think that it's the worst environment for a young player to come of age in, that Sixers tanking thing. And I don't give a shit what anybody says.
And he embraced the hell out of it. You'll remember. It's like, I want my nickname to be the process.
Yeah. And I just don't.
And this is what you get when they're now superstars. This is what you get.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. And I think he was just even like, you know, everybody's got like a dog to kind of like help them come of age. And Embiid never had that. He had Jimmy Butler and they got him out of there.
Yeah. And the Sixers, I look back on it, like since really the process ended or they were starting to draft those guys as part of the process, it's not that much different dysfunction-wise than like the Jets. Because you look at what the process brought you, and it's really Embiid. For all of those years, with the early part of it, Michael Carter-Williams, Nerlens Noel, then Ben Simmons, and all that drama, and Markelle Fultz, people thinking he ruined the poor kid. And Embiid is the only one that's kind of stuck around from it. And I don't know if you saw these comments this morning coming from Shams.
Tell me.
This is exactly the kind of response that you'll love. That Sixers fans it will help them sleep at night. Joel Embiid, whoever leaked that is a real piece of shit. Talking about the Sixers team meeting. We talked about a lot of things. I don't want to get into the details, but that whole thing probably took 30 seconds. Like, talk about the wrong answer. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is just, and you read that, you're like, this guy's just butthurt that this got out, that someone else called him out.
Yeah.
Instead, and there's ways you can say, like, yeah, we talked about a lot of things, but yeah, you know, I take my role with this team very seriously. I love my teammates. I want to be a leader for them, and I'm going to work on this, and we want to come. This was a thing to come together as a team. Instead, it's bullshit that this got leaked, and the whole thing was about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And those are just two isolated quotes. So take that how you will. But like, that's just, it's like Sixers fans going to be banging their head against the wall.
Well, and I think that leak was strategic. I think whoever leaked it did it on purpose. I think that, there's an effort to make this guy accountable finally.
And he sees it as you're trying to make me look bad.
And Tyrese Maxey is the last guy who wants to challenge Joel Embiid, but he had to. And the fact that it's come to that point is, it's not. I mean, you mentioned it. It's not Kyle Lowry,
Right.
So it's really frustrating. The organization's terrible, and they're not very popular right now among Sixers fans, or like the city. They're trying to get an arena built. They don't want to spend any money.
Boy, that's a good way to get fans on your side, just in any market.
Yeah.
Like, golly, man. It's a Phillies town right now.
I know.
Oh, the Eagles are still sneaky pretty good, but
yeah, they are.
There's some dysfunction there, and people want to highlight that. But the Eagles are pretty good.
Yeah.
They also, in that video, when they're comparing him to the Shaq Kobe thing, they bring out Kobe did some interview Q&A thing, and they ask him about Shaq, and they were like, "You've said in the past, like, it pissed you off that Shaq didn't have your work ethic." He's like, "Yeah, it did." They said, "If Shaq had your work ethic, like, what would have been different?" And he said he would have been the greatest player of all time.
Yeah, but
I know how bitchy that kind of sounds, but when you accomplish what Kobe accomplished and kind of broke the mold of being that selfish superstar, I think he's got grounds to say that.
Okay. No, I'll push back.
Please.
Like, as someone who, first of all,
and I'm a noted Kobe hater.
Yeah, first of all, I know Kobe's past, and I know he did a lot of good things in the world, but I also have on good authority. Like, he was kind of a pain in the ass. Like, not a great guy. Not
and some also other things in his past that weren't great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, he was a dick.
Yes.
And
it really took a lot. Like, Phil took a lot
Yeah.
to beat that out of him in the post-Shaq era when they got back to the finals and won back-to-back.
And Shaq wasn't, like, well-liked among his teammates because he was, like, this jolly green giant people pleaser. Like, he set an example of his own, and he really was a positive influence on that team. Like, the nicest guy of all time. Like,
ask the general, baby.
Yeah, Shaq, by the way,
Ask Papa John.
He advertises everywhere, not
Everything,
just the general. Dude.
Everything. He
Walk
will not
into
say
an
no to
Office
anything.
Depot. It's like you basically are greeted by the
gosh.
But I think that Kobe, that's such a cliche. Somebody who grew up like a tall person, I can't tell you how many guys your size would be like, if I had your height, it's like, kick rocks, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you don't. And that's
I've
it.
said that to you, of course.
Yeah, of course, right? And like, for Kobe to say that, that's the ultimate, like, backhanded, like, comment.
Yeah.
I believe, like,
Because it says, like, I do know how great you are, and you're so gifted. But
it doesn't say
you don't have that thing.
It doesn't
that I
say
have
that's
that-
how great you are.
that
It says,
people-
I think
but
that you're
it kind of
lazy.
does. That's the compliment of the backhanded compliment. But it also says, if you have this trait that is more revered by people that I have, then you'd be the greatest.
Kobe was a killer. Like,
was.
there's no question. He was a killer. But
Aaron Hernandez, killer.
but-
Anyway,
but-
like, I just, so the title of that video, by the way, was saying that Joel Embiid is like the most disappointing NBA
by the way,
superstar
Cam sends
ever.
me a 9-minute video last night with all it says is interesting comparison.
Because I told you we were going to talk about Joel Embiid.
But you didn't say that. You just said interesting comparison.
Would you like me to AI like a summary for you?
So I
or-
opened up the video. By the way, I waited till I got home. I opened up
Thank
the
you.
video and I was like, fuck, 9 minutes? And then
9 minutes.
And then but
like
hold
it's
on.
a feature film.
No. And it's not like Jeremy Schaap, dude. Like, it's like Joe Blow.
It's now we're gonna gatekeep who can put interesting stuff on YouTube.
In 1997.
That's what people are saying about me.
Bryant, in 1997, Kobe Bryant entered the NBA. He was there to challenge Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah.
A few years later, Shaquille O'Neal would get taken in free agency and a trade.
It was Swish Out, by the way,
I
who I
was
think is a
like,
good channel.
Whatever. I mean, that's fine, but look, we're on YouTube. Who am I to say? But I mean,
Pete Souza Show, 1 o'clock. Everybody.
But I was a little disappointed in the quality of it. Yeah.
I'm more focused on the content.
And by the way, I think that
More
that
focused
whole
on the content.
argument, and this is my last, it's not an argument, that comparison sucks, Cam.
Okay, this is all right.
I think that comparison is so bad because Shaq won titles. Joel Embiid hasn't gone to a conference finals. Like, there is no comparison. Like, I feel bad. Me and my main man, Murph, got in a debate before the season who was better, Shaq or Embiid. And I don't even want to go, exactly. I don't even want to go back at Murph now because I feel like it's such a runaway. Like, he's been so boat raced. It like even now, it's not even the end of November, but I feel like it's an emphatic nail in the coffin. Unless Joel Embiid bumps his head and wins 4 titles, but that still doesn't win the argument that Murph and I had before this season because that was compartmentalized about his career up until that point. Shaq was, again, who were we talking about yesterday?
First,
I
before we
did
get
watch
into
back
this-
our Hall of Fame debate. And guys, we did great. Go ahead.
Before we get into this, Alex English or Magic Johnson? Think about it. Ponder it. Go ahead.
Alex.
Adrian Dantley or Michael Jordan?
Alex English was electric, right? But he was kind of a product of that system too in Denver.
Sure. They were run and gun, man. Yeah.
But no, Shaq was like really scary. He was really terrifying. Yesterday we were talking about the Hall of Fame debate. We were talking about some guys who were like Mark McGuire was very scary, like imposing before the steroids, and that's a whole nother. We're not going to litigate that again today. But like Shaq was like you couldn't stop him.
Yes.
Like the Hack-a-Shaq stuff. Like, yeah, the guy couldn't shoot free throws, but like there's another side to that too. Like there was no other way to stop him. There were like 8 guys climbing all over him. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And he, by the way, did not get, like there was a long time where he wasn't getting calls and people were killing him. You know, he was so much different and so much more powerful and so much more of unique. What are you laughing at?
I'm just thinking of one of the points the guy made in there about Shaq.
What did he say? This guy sucks.
So it's at the end of the video, so I know you didn't get to it, but he's talking about Shaq, Joel Embiid, and Dwight Howard, and whether Embiid is closer to Shaq or closer to Howard.
Closer to Howard.
And he says, I actually really respect Howard. Like I saw him a lot growing up, and I went back and looked at his numbers, and I was actually perplexed as to he never scored 24 a game. And he's like, Shaq did that in his rookie year. And he's like, Joel Embiid has never been to a conference finals. Shaq did that in his second year. Like, it's just so fun. Like, Shaq just immediately wipes them away. Like,
yeah.
This is what we're talking about.
Dwight Howard
let's
did
wrap
go
it
to
up
an
here.
NBA finals. And he did, I think he went to several conference finals.
Couple, yeah. And one defensive player of the
He
year.
was Dwight Howard was really good.
But Embiid, so last thing I'm going to close with here. They talk
Dwight
about
Howard is a guy, by the way, quickly, who kind of tarnished his legacy
Baylor
by
guy.
a bunch of like nonsense towards the end of his career.
That's another good Kobe story that we could talk about off the air, I guess, because we're running out of time. But they point to what Stephen A said about Kawhi Leonard a couple years ago about like just being the worst superstar ever because he's not available. And it's like, do you have to put Embiid? Do you have to start talking about him in that conversation? Because Kawhi won a championship, 2 championships, willed the team to a championship, went to a couple finals, defensive player of the years. Like, yeah, the last couple years non-existent. Don't get me wrong, but
I'm not going
he was
there. I'm not
awesome.
I'm not that like hurting for content, right? Like or hurting.
Okay.
Like, there's another thing too, by the way, another Kobe
real
thing.
quick.
And I heard this recently. I heard it was Simmons and Van Lathan and somebody else was on talking. Anyways, it wasn't Russillo. If Kobe's situation with the rape, he may not survive that in today's world.
No.
Think about that.
No, he would not.
Yeah. Like
absolutely not. His career would be over.
Think about that.
I mean, there are guys who are, not trying to compare things, but there are guys who are getting drunk driving stuff and they're not going to play.
Yeah.
So anyway, Pete Souza, 1 p.m. Pete Souza Show live on YouTube. We'll be back here high noon Eastern time, live on YouTube like we are every weekday, and then wherever you get your podcast. So be sure to like and subscribe, ring that notification bell to get notified every time we're dropping a video. And we'll see you tomorrow.
You are here with your shoot first point guard, Corey Dickman. Also, if you're not creating new fans in a small market, then you're not creating that base of people to go to games and pay for merchandise and pay for stuff and concessions at the Moda Center and yada yada.
Yeah, let's talk draft. That's the only thing we have to look forward to.
The only thing we have to look forward to. That's what I will teach my son. You will teach your daughter as Blazers fans. It's like, look, the two most exciting times of the year for us are the draft lottery and the draft itself. Like, here we are. This is our thing. Give me some memories and thoughts. I know you had mentioned kind of the first time you had met Bill. What were some of those first memories that came back when you heard the news?
Coming up on the Pete Souza Show, Rogue Media and ESPN's own King McClure talks with us about the NBA draft.
Team is banged
Are
up
you
a
getting
bit.
undressed while we're doing this?
No.
What is happening?
And it's partially because the team has like pretty kind of
Wrong
big problems.
podcast, Nick. Wrong podcast. When you're a golfer, what is the point of no return? He was the best play-by-play announcer around, in my opinion, and he made me want to continue to watch.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at a stop. I thought I was fine, and then once I got home, I realized it's a lot worse than I thought. I ended up having a ruptured disc. You say you're not hurting, and then an hour later, you're saying you're in all this pain. I just felt like most people would think that I was lying. That's when I decided to call Daniel Stark. I owe a lot to Daniel Stark. They really got me what I deserved.
The difference is stark.
We are Rogue Media Sports.